This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Know-How is brought to you by CacheFly.
This episode of Know-How is brought to you by DigitalOcean. Simple and fast cloud hosting built for developers. Deploy an SSD cloud server in 55 seconds. Try it today for free. Visit DigitalOcean.com, and once you sign up, be sure to enter the promo code KNOWHOW in the billing section to get your $10 credit. And by iFixit. Introducing the all-new ProTech Toolkit to give you the compact and complete toolkit for all things DIY. For $5 off your purchase of $10 or more, go to ifixit.com/twit and enter the code KNOWHOW at checkout. On today's show,
you'll know how to make a PTZ out of stepper motors and an Arduino.
Welcome to Know-How. It's the Twitch show where we build, band break, and upgrade. I'm Father Ballecer.
I'm Bryan Burnett.
And for the next 30 to 45 minutes, who knows, we're going to be showing you one of the projects that we've been geeking out with so you can take it home and geek out on your own. Bryan, we are tired.
More than usual?
More than usual, because we just got back from Los Angeles. What was that thing that we did?
It was like the EE show? 3Es.
The 3E
the
3E show.
Yeah.
The Electronic Entertainment Exposition E3 down in Los Angeles at the Staples Center. We were giving some coverage for Twit TV, and after the coverage, you went back and actually had yourself some fun.
Well, that's because if you do an event like this, the first day is work. You know, it was just a blur. We were running from booth to booth. Like, it was a little overwhelming, you know, the lights, the sounds, the interviews and everything. And then looking back on the day, I was like, I don't really remember much.
Didn't play much.
I didn't get to play anything. I didn't get to like look close at anything. So I went back the next day with Greg, my little brother, and we just hung out and just absorbed everything, and it was really cool.
I feel like that at any live event that we cover, because there's a difference between going to a live event and having fun at a live event and covering it. I mean, covering it is, okay, we got to do this, keep moving.
Right.
So you're right. That first day, there were so many cool games, so much nice hardware, and I was like, well, we've got another 30 seconds, then we have to move on.
And there's the two halls, so you feel like you have to spread your time between those two, and you're trying to walk everywhere. Like, I think we walked probably about 10 miles in that day. Yeah. Just going back and forth and stuff. But it was the same when we went to NAB.
Exactly.
Except I was in one place, you know, switching to TriCaster, so I don't feel like I saw any of NAB really.
Exactly. No, actually, you were even worse than me because you were stuck behind the TriCaster the entire time. Yeah. You mean you didn't even take bathroom breaks? There was a jar, a hose underneath the desk.
That's just what you got to do,
right?
You know, I think next time they're going to get me like a TD astronaut suit, so I don't have to leave. But back to
we
E3.
call that a diaper.
Diaper?
It's much cheaper. Works just as well.
I use that on this show too.
Folks, we will be giving you E3 coverage. Just go to twit.tv/specials. It should be up by the time you're watching this. We're also going to be including some of our favorite segments on Monday's episode of Know-How. We're doing another gamer extravaganza. Last week, we talked about some of the hardware that you'd want to put into your gaming box. You reviewed the Predator. We had Alvin Malventano come on. Yeah. The coming week, we're going to be showing people footage from the Lenovo Tech World, from the Augmented World Exposition, and from E3. So you're going to want to watch that if you're a gamer.
It's kind of interesting that all these events we've been going to, they all seem to kind of be converging. Because at NAB, all the broadcast equipment and live streaming, and then we went to Lenovo World, which was all about VR, and then we went to Augmented Reality, AWE, and that was VR and AR, and then we went to E3, where it's bringing all the entertainment, the live streaming, and then there's like the big presence with all the VR headsets, the PlayStation VR, you know, like the Oculus. It's all kind of coming together.
You've picked up on that big trend, which is all of these events used to be very siloed. Right. I mean, you have the enterprise people, you have the networking people, you have the consumer people, and now it's kind of blending together into, well, there's just a lot of digital content, and we're going to help you consume it.
And I'm okay with that because there's a lot of cool games coming out. And not just like big blockbuster games either. Like there's the Indie-cade place that we went to, where it's just like
what was that
developers.
Game? Reversing?
Interverses, yeah.
You really like that one.
It was neat. It was a very basic principle of just you have like two little blocks, one's white, one's black, and you're shooting across this map and you're trying to block each other off. Right. And once you do, you kind of like corner someone.
Yeah. So you'll be seeing all of that in a future episode of Know How. But right now, we want to talk about something else, a project that we started a few weeks back. We've been slowly building up. We thought we should revisit it. And that is the PTZ project. You remember we showed you how to play with some steppers, and we mounted a GoPro camera on top of this that could be controlled by your keyboard, right? Well, we're going to push the project forward a little bit because in order to have a real PTZ, pan, tilt, zoom,
you got to have the tilt and zoom.
You got to have the tilt. Yeah, exactly. And so what's what we're going to do? We're going to be adding another axis. We're going to be changing the code in Sketch so that you can control it. And then we're actually going to make a departure because I want to make it better.
Better, stronger, faster?
Stronger, faster.
Okay.
But let's start off with the parts. So just like before, if you go to the overhead, Alex, we're going to call we've got Alex, yes. These are some of the parts that you're going to need. Of course, you need an Arduino. Breadboards are always fun to have. These are the 3D printed parts that you can download from the show notes. But I mean, there's so many different types of frames for these motors. These are so well known. The what are these? The 28 BYJ steppers that you could just go to Thingiverse and find one that fits you. There's several gimbal styles. There's several PTZ styles. Of course, we're going to use a camera. In this case, we're using a GoPro 4 Session just for the size because I kind of like the size. And then we need power. And power, the entire project is going to be powered by one of these UBECs that we've been using so much. This entire project is going to be powered off of a 12-volt battery that could run it for, I think, something like 20 hours.
So, I mean, even if you've just been doing some of the other projects that we've done on the show, you should have a lot of these parts already.
Oh, yeah. Altogether, if you bought all of these parts brand new, not including the 3D printed parts, because, of course, if you don't have a 3D printer, that could get expensive. But it's about $8 in parts. So this is not not an expensive project.
Low barrier of entry for this project.
Super low barrier of entry. In fact, Alex, if you could go to the motor and the driver, that first link for there we go. I think we missed.
Hey, Alex.
We may have just ticked off Kara.
Which is actually worse than ticking off Alex.
So we're getting two of these because we need one to control the x-axis and one to control the y-axis. Now, this is for prototyping. We're going to use the same sort of code now that we're going to use when we go up to bigger stepper motors that can handle bigger cameras. But these are so cheap and they're really easy to work with, so this is what we're working with. Also, if you go to that next link, where we've got this Hobbywing 5-amp UBEC. This is plenty of power to run both of the stepper motors and the Arduino. If we wanted to run the Arduino off of this. So go ahead and pick yourself up one of these, one of each. In fact, get yourself a bunch because you're going to be using these parts over and over again.
Right, because even Rev Dynamite in the chat room pointed out that he has followed along with some of the projects, and all those parts that he ordered are actually in the projects that he intended them for. So order extras.
Exactly. This is why we always order extras, especially for parts like this. Like, you will always need something to power a project. So I have 30 of these sitting in a project box. I've probably got about 20 of these stepper motors and then a bunch of the larger stepper motors. So if you are following along in the show, it might be time to sort of build up your workshop because you don't want to have to disassemble something to create a new project.
Right. Well, and I have a habit of breaking things, so I usually order twice as many as I would need.
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and kick it off. The first thing is this. This is what we had done at the end of the last episode. There we go. So we've got one of the steppers already mounted on the shelf. This shelf is what everything is going to rest on top of. Then we've got the driver board for that motor here. Now, this is really simple. There's only one way to plug the motor, the stepper motor, into the driver because it's slotted. So it just goes in like that, boop, and we're good to go. But you have to remember which motor is connected to which driver board because we're going to individually assign the driver boards once we get them connected into the Arduino.
Right.
So that's not actually for this one. This one is for this one. I have it separate so that we can see the connections a bit better. Okay. Now, we need to take 6 cables, 6 wires off of each of these driver boards. 4 for the input. That's what's going to be receiving the pulses from the Arduino that tells the stepper how to rotate. And then we need, on this side, that's where power is going to go in, 5-volt power. So we have to give it power here, and we have to give it instructions there.
Makes sense.
Okay. So since we need 4, we're going to pull that out. That's our 4 lead, and then for power, because I've run out of black and red.
But at least you got red on there.
I kind of, well, orange-ish.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's all good. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and put this pack of 4 jumpers onto the 4 here, like so. And then we're going to like so. Now the only thing to remember is 1 is at the top. So 1, let's use this. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So when I connect this to the Arduino, I need to remember that IN1 is orange, IN2 is yellow, IN3 is green, and IN4 is blue.
Okay.
Okay. Now I need to take power, and I'm going to use the orange cable here as my positive, and the yellow one is going to be my common, my ground, my negative. Okay. So on this side, I've got the power, and ground is to the outside, and 5-volt power is to the inside, so that's what that's going to look like.
Cool.
Cool. Now we need to do the other one as well. And I've got another set of 4 and another set of 2. So same thing, I'm going to connect this. The black is going to be IN1, and then white, gray, and purple. Like so. Come on, there we go.
And so are we going to have a separate power source for this?
No, we're going to be able to power both of these off the same UBEC.
Arduino. Okay, cool.
Yeah, these stepper motors are really small, so it's not like they're using up a whole lot of power. These jumpers are, hold on, they're misbehaving. Let me just get them in there. There we go. So just like before, I have to remember, the one thing I have to remember is that IN1 is black, IN2 is white, IN3 is gray, and IN4 is going to be this purple.
Right.
Okay. Now let's go ahead and take this. This is the first stepper motor. We're going to put that in there. Boop. It's a nice snug fit because I don't want it popping around. And I also have to take power, or give power to the second one. Now this one is completely messed up. So I'm going to use blue as ground. Folks,
you probably should write down if you're not
you
using
really
the red
should write
color.
down, and also just get yourself a bunch of red and black, because I really don't like, this is a really good way to blow up a project where you're like, okay, well, normally red is power, but this time brown's going to be power? The only reason why I'm doing it here is because these are the only jumpers I have left. Like many people, I have completely run out. So blue is going to be ground. There we go.
That's just how many projects we've had using these little wires.
Exactly. So this is what my wiring harness is going to look like. This is not the neatest thing ever. And actually, there have been some really nice posts in our Google Plus page of people who have made nice wiring harnesses. At some point, I'm going to do that. Today is not that day.
No, it's not. At least it's colorful, though.
Precisely. And the other thing to remember is that this is the Arduino that we're going to be using. We're going to be using an Uno, but we don't have to use an Uno. This would work just fine with like a Mini, a Pro, or a Nano, and that's what this slot is for. I created a little slot in the back here,
Arduino.
so the Mini Arduino can fit, which means I could ultimately have the power, everything in this one little frame with the battery in the bottom.
Which is probably the best part about this project is how compact it is.
Right, yeah, you want it to be compact. All right, now here's where we're gonna have some fun. Let's do the power first, because the power is the one that I need to remember, because I don't want to reverse these, because I didn't bring any spares, so if I blow this up, the episode is over.
It'll be a great live demo, though.
Okay, so for this one, if you go to the overhead or the side view, Kara, this orange is gonna be our 5-volt, and this yellow is gonna be our ground.
Are you sure that's what it was?
I'm pretty sure. And for this one, the blue was the ground, and the green was the 5-volt.
Right.
Let me double check that really quickly. Yeah. Yes. Okay. So this is positive, and this is negative. Now, if you look at my UBEC actually has the wrong type of plug. It's
the JST connector?
Well, yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use jumpers on this as well.
Are you going to use the right colors?
I am. I have a red jumper and I have a black jumper. So you know, fancy.
Yeah.
Okay. So 5-volt power is going to go here, and ground is going to go there. I am pretty sure I didn't cross-connect anything, but we'll find out when we turn it on if there's smoke. All right. So what I need to do is I need to connect these to here. Now you will see in the code, in the third segment, we're actually going to show people how we created the code. But I started it at 4, so output number 4, which is right here. So I'm going to go 4, 5, 6, 7. For stepper motor number 1, which is this one. And then 8, 9, 10, 11 for stepper motor number 2, which is going to be in the frame up top.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
So we'll start with this, which is stepper motor number 1. And remember, IN1 was orange, so that's where we start. That's 4, like this. Then 5, which is yellow. Oop. And I can pull out the first one, because that's what I do. And then the third one is green, that's 6, and the last one is blue, which is 7. So
Perfect.
that's the connection for the first stepper motor.
Right, and
But
that's just for the data, right?
That's just for the data. That's the Arduino telling the driver board which way do I want you to rotate, what pulses do I want you to send.
Right.
All right. So now I need to hook up the second set, and in the second set, where is that? Black is IN1, so that's going to be the very first one I connect, and purple is the last one, so that goes to 11. So it's going to go 8, 9, 10, 11. Like so. You know, the other thing is I have done this so many times, these jumpers don't really hold anymore.
Getting kind of loose, yeah.
So I need to maybe replace a few of the pieces that are well used.
Yeah, it might be a good idea for us to bulk order somehow.
But that's how we look. So remember, on the first stepper motor, it was orange, yellow, green, blue. And on the second stepper motor, it was black, white, gray, and purple. Now, if you reverse this, don't worry about it. It's not going to destroy it. It's not going to kill it. All it's going to do is the stepper motor will like vibrate, but it won't rotate.
Yeah.
The only one you really have to make sure you do right is power. If you reverse the power, you do have a problem. Okay, so let's move this aside for just a bit because we don't need that until we actually assemble the second part, because we need a stepper motor on top of the stepper motor,
right,
so that not only can I rotate it this way, but I can also do this.
Exactly.
Right? So what I've done is I've taken this frame, which is supposed to have the stepper motor like this. That's how they designed it. But I'm going to reverse it because I actually want the center of gravity to be closer to the GoPro. And if I did this, what would happen is the GoPro would end up being all the way out here, and that would really mess up how this thing turns.
Right, because the balance would be so far off.
The balance is going to be so far off. So I'm going to do this.
Okay.
And I'm going to lock that down with 2.
And is this just a model that you got off Thingiverse?
I got this off Thingiverse. And again, choose the one that you want, because I'm going to actually design a custom one that's perfectly designed for the session. Unfortunately, the model that I created, I couldn't print because I got home and realized that I had torn down the Dremel right before I left. For some reason, I really didn't feel like assembling it last night.
I don't blame you at all.
Yeah. I'm not good with the small finger thing.
Oh, so close.
Just do this. There we go.
Do you want me to do it?
No.
With my little baby
No,
fingers?
I can do it. See? There. What?
You got it. Nice.
Okay. So,
Don't.
It's just about loosened it.
That was close.
So we're going to tighten these up a little bit, just so that it holds the motor tight. Oh, this part is going to be easy because we've created a custom stand for the GoPro. Remember this from the last episode?
Yeah.
So this is going to hold this frame onto the stepper motor as soon as we tighten down those little screws. So we're going to put it on like, where does it go? Like that. And then just tighten these down a little bit.
Not too tight.
Lower. Lower. Too low! Sorry. There we go. Okay, so that's going to be that. That handles that rotation. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take the GoPro and we're going to go ahead and slip it inside like so. Boop. Ta-da. So that's going to be the top shelf versus the bottom shelf.
Right.
And this gets held onto the assembly just like.
So now we have rotational access and then the tilting.
Precisely.
Cool.
So this is what our completed unit will look like once I connect this to its driver. So there we go. There we go. Ta-da! Now let's go ahead and get this powered up. The first thing we need to do is we need to get connectivity between my computer and the Arduino. So I'm going to power the Arduino over the computer. Now, if I was doing a field deployment, I would power it off of the same breadboard that's powering the 2 stepper motors. I just don't have to do it this time because it's actually physically connected to a computer.
Right.
Okay, so I got that out. I have no smoke, so I'm assuming things are all right. And let me go ahead and start up my TerraTerm.
Totally safe to assume it's okay.
Totally safe to assume.
I mean, are you positive or negative? Oh,
look at that.
Oh.
Care, go to the side view. Okay, so this is what it looks like. So this allows me to spin it along the x-axis, and then this, if you go back to that camera, allows me to spin it up and down.
Nice.
Right? And all
That's
this
cool.
is, so right on, what I'm doing, we're going to show you the code for this, but right now all I'm doing is I'm just pressing the WASD keys. So if you're a gamer, this is the same thing. Now, let's talk about a couple of things that I want to improve. The first thing is, see, these are the incremental steps. So that's as smooth as I can make it.
Right.
The problem with that is this motor is not super accurate. And what we're going to hope to do is we're going to be replacing these motors with larger motors that can actually handle things like DSLRs.
Ooh, yeah.
These, they struggle to hold this GoPro. And this is a tiny little GoPro. But the other cool thing that we can do with this is we're going to wirelessly enable this this Arduino project so that I don't have to physically be connected to the computer. I can connect via Bluetooth and control the PTZ just as well as if I was connected.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that this would be fine though if you want to do a time lapse with your little GoPro.
Oh yeah, and this is, remember, this was the impetus for the entire project. We're going to be showing a comment from the person on the new screensavers who wanted us to build him a PTZ rig. This is a sub $10 PTZ rig, and if all you wanted to do was to put the GoPro in the right direction, this is it. You're done because you're wirelessly connected to the GoPro, position it where you want it, and just leave it. But then you can occasionally move it.
Right.
It's just you wouldn't want to use the footage of it moving because it's kind of jerky.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we'll fix that in the future project. So this is the prototype version. This is the proof of concept. And strangely enough, the code that we wrote for this tiny little one using these motors will work just as well for the huge stepper motors. That's one of the wonderful things about stepper motors.
That's cool.
Yeah. What we need to do, though, is before we get to the coding, let's go ahead and take a gander at the mind of the person who first wanted us to do this project. His name was Midwest Concert Video. He was the guest on the new screensavers who said that he does a lot of setups, and he wanted a way to control a remote camera that didn't cost a lot of money.
Right.
Thankfully, he also wrote back in the Google Plus group, and he asked us about something that we might have seen at NAB. Brian, you want to go with it?
Go with it? You mean read his question?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So he says, hey, Padre, did you get a look at this at NAB? Blackmagic Design had an SDI to Arduino device. This might be just what I need for the pan-tilt zoom project we discussed on the new screensavers. And yeah, I mean, when we were at NAB, I got to use those Panasonic ones, which were amazing, but I think they were like $5,000 a piece or something.
Probably a little more expensive than $8.
Yeah,
tiny bit. Thankfully, we actually did. We spoke with a representative from Blackmagic Designs, and believe it or not, they would love to have some Arduino fans take their gear for a ride. So, Kara, if you could go ahead and push that magic button.
All right, Bob. What's next? We've got the duplicator, we've got the cameras, you've got this thing that, well, my co-host for our Maker Show, we know this very well. This is an Arduino, but it's got some interesting shields stacked on top.
So what we built was a 3 gig SDI Arduino shield. So we were able to put a SDI in and out on a mezzanine board here to throw on top of an Arduino. And then, this is actually one of the Grant Petty's specialty, he built this himself to control the cameras. So you can iris up and down, you can turn the tally on and off, and then you can change the focus and whatever. And what we're doing is we're just selling the board itself. People can buy their own Arduino. And really, it's just a tinkerer's thing. People will make whatever they want to make with them. We're gonna ship the boards themselves in the next 6 weeks or so. They'll be $95, and people can buy their own Arduino and then build their own. So we're gonna include a disc that has the control breakouts for the controlling the cameras, and then some schematics for people to play around with. So this is like an engineer's little tinkering toy idea.
And for me, this sums up Blackmagic in a single product shot, and that is you like to invite the people to tinker. You want people to take your gear and find out what they can do with it, rather than you telling them this is what it does and buy it and then leave us alone.
And then that's why we put out our SDKs on a lot of products. Even the Micro Cinema and the Micro Studio cameras last year had that expansion port that we called the hackable camera. You write your own interfacing, because at the end of the day, we shouldn't be telling you exactly how you do something. You should be able to, have some creative freedom. That's how we, create cool shows like this.
We have been speaking with Bob Cornelia, Senior Regional Manager at Blackmagic. He's been showing us all his toys, all the new products that you're going to find at the Blackmagic booth. Now, Bob, if they wanted to find out more about the Ursa Mini, they wanted to find out more about your duplicator, they wanted to find out more about the Shield, or anything else that Blackmagic has at their booth, of course, they should come to the show. But if they can't make it here, where do they find you?
Then they can go to www.blackmagicdesign.com.
The nice thing about that device is it's a Shield, so it will work on an Arduino, it will work on an Arduino Raspberry. Basically, anything that uses a GPIO can use that. And the way he explained to me off camera how it works is fascinating. It uses the blanking space in an SDI stream. It's so anytime you have an SDI stream, there's always stuff on the side that kind of keeps it clean. It keeps it separate from other streams, right? Well, it uses that empty space to send simple commands. So in the same cable that you use to connect your SDI camera to, say, the TriCaster, you can send commands for tally lights. You could send commands for talkback, so you could actually speak to the person who's running the camera. And you can do focus, iris, lens control. It's actually very, very cool.
That's really clever to be able to do all that in one cable. And I like the thing I liked most about that Blackmagic and stuff is that we use a lot of their gear, but the idea that you provide the way for someone to kind of build their own project into it is pretty cool. Like that they don't just try and lock people out.
Oh, very much so. And we're hoping to get one of those shields, or actually two of those shields, for Know-How, because we can do this project with the larger stepper motors, with the DSLR, and we can route the DSLR video through an SDI cable, and then have a single SDI cable that gives us commands for the PTZ, that gives us super high quality direct video feedback from the camera, and can even let us do things like talk back through that camera or turn on a tally light. When
tally lights would be pretty cool,
so we actually know which camera to follow.
Well, so when I was using those Panasonic PTZs with the TriCaster, I had just the little joystick, and that was it. It was just the SDI going to those PTZs. That's cool.
Now, we did have a couple of questions in the chat room of why we didn't use servo motors, and we actually discussed this on the previous episode, which I think was 213. So if you go to episode 213, we talked about the difference between servo motors and stepper motors, because servo motors actually does have a feedback. It has a little potentiometer connected to the gears that allows it to kind of know which way it's pointing. And if you want to know why you would use a stepper motor versus a servo motor, or a servo motor versus a stepper motor, just watch that episode, because we did a pretty thorough rundown of the pros and the cons of each. The thing is, people will always ask, why don't you use this? Why don't you use that? And ultimately, the answer is, for this particular application, for what we're doing, we wanted X, or we wanted Y, or we needed more durability. We needed smoother transitions. We needed a less expensive device. And stepper motors are going to be less expensive than comparable servo motors. But servo motors will have more precision. So it's all about what you want out of a project.
And I think we kind of design our projects in mind of, if you need to switch something out to fix for your specific project, go for it. There's no hard reason that we have to have a stepper motor.
Precisely. And in fact, I think maybe in a future episode of Know-How, what I'll do is I'll do the exact same project. I'll redesign the project, but using servos. And you'll see when you would use that. A few things. We'll talk a little bit about what I want to upgrade on this device. But first, Brian, what I want to do is I want to take a moment to thank a sponsor of Know-How.
Yeah, we probably should, considering how easy to use it is.
Yeah, easy to use. Specifically how easy it is to get onto the internet. Now, you know that the old way of getting onto the internet,
I don't.
Of having a portfolio. When I was an old IT guy back in the day, setting up servers.
I take these things for granted. I don't have the same appreciation as you do.
You shouldn't, because this is gold. Well, the gold is not having to do what I did, which was to rent a colo space and then buy the hardware and install the hardware, get all the software set up properly, probably make some sort of agreement with a transaction company as well as my ISP for bandwidth, and then I also had to hire someone to make sure that the hardware would stay up. That's the old way of getting on the internet. That's the old way of putting your portfolio, your website, your project, your new app or service. You shouldn't be doing it that way anymore, because we've got DigitalOcean. Now, DigitalOcean is the easiest, the fastest, and really the best way for you to get your project, your portfolio, your app, your server, whatever it might be, up on the internet. The way that it works is that it uses droplets. These are containers, little self-contained pieces of software that allow you to take what it is that you created and run it on 1 CPU, 2 CPUs, 12 CPUs, 1,000 CPUs, either in a very localized area inside of DigitalOcean's colos or around the planet. That's one of the things that really draws people to DigitalOcean, the fact that they are the fastest way for you to get and scale your project on the internet. Now, DigitalOcean is used by over 600,000 developers, including Twit's Randall Schwartz, Aaron Newcomb, and myself. It lets you deploy and configure these droplets via a streamlined control panel or a simple API. Now, you get to choose your own OS. Ubuntu, CentOS, Debian, Fedora, CoreOS, and FreeBSD. What is your flavor? That's what you get to use. And you can also select from one of the many pre-configured one-clicks like Drupal, Docker, or Node.js to get up and running quickly. And since they give you root access, you could also create the infrastructure exactly the way you want. With DigitalOcean, you have the power to set it up the way that you need it. It's highly scalable. This is one of the things that I talked about before. Whether it's just for a few minutes that you turn on your project so you can test it in real-world traffic, or if it's deployed around the planet so you can serve millions and millions of customers, DigitalOcean lets you use the same containers with a simple slide of a button. They've also got an extremely active community, which is one of the things that I'm always looking for, because an active community means that the people who have bought, who have paid for, who have contracted for this service like it enough to come back and help the people who are new, or help the people who are trying to figure out how to use these containers in DigitalOcean in a slightly different way. You can also do things like use floating IPs for high availability, private networking, automated deployments via API. It's so easy to get started that you could be up and running with your own SSD cloud server in as little as 55 seconds. Now, DigitalOcean has incredibly affordable and straightforward pricing with servers starting at just $5 per month, and there's also hourly pricing available starting at less than a penny per hour. But we're going to make it so that you can get started today and deploy an SSD cloud server for free. That's right. Don't you like free? Free's a great price. Just visit DigitalOcean.com and create an account. Once you confirm your email and account information, you can go to the billing section and enter the promo code KNOWHOW for a free $10 credit. That's plenty to get started up and explore what DigitalOcean can do for you. That's DigitalOcean.com, DigitalOcean.com. And once you sign up, enter the code KNOWHOW in the billing section to get your $10 credit for free. We thank DigitalOcean for their support of Know-How. All right, Brian. That's fun. We like the hardware, but the hardware doesn't do much without the software.
No, not at all.
So let's show people how we created the software. This is actually just an extension of the project that we built back in 1.13. So if you saw Stepduino, the original project, this is building up on it. Kara, if you go to my screen, what you're going to see here is we needed 2 of these. In the first project, we just had 1 stepper. So we had variables that told the Arduino where are the pins connected. So in this particular case, stepper motor 1 was connected to 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now there is no reason why I couldn't use 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, 6, 7, 8. And there are there's 13 pins that I can use here. So I could connect 3 stepper motors to this thing and drive them all. So if I wanted to do true pan tilt zoom, I could have 1 stepper motor that was, say, on a DSLR connected to the focus ring or the zoom ring, right? Right. Exactly. But in this particular case, I'm going 4, 5, 6, 7 for stepper 1, and then I'm going to go 8, 9, 10, 11 for stepper 2. Now, the reason why I do it here rather than down below in the code for the actual accessing of the stepper motors, and we've talked about this before, if we make a change, we don't want to have to hunt down the individual spots where we might have specified pin 4, pin 5, pin 6, pin 7. Right. So instead, I'm using this variable S1 IN1, S1 IN2, so the 4 pins for every driver board. Right. I'm setting them here so that I could change the numbers here and automatically it will change them elsewhere in the program. This is something you really should get into a habit of. Some people have sent me their code, which is great. I love the fact that they're programming. Yeah. But if you're not doing it this way, I guarantee you at some point your code will grow too large and too complex for you to remember where you put everything. Yeah, and if you're kind of new to programming, you might be asking why would you want to do that? And it's kind of just a programming fundamental, so you don't have to hunt through your code to change those things. And the way you have it set up, you can just copy those when you add a third stepper and paste, and then just change it to S3, and then change the numbers to the inputs that you want. Right, and you always should be thinking that way. Think, well, I may know it now, and it may be a small program now, but if I open this thing back up in a year, am I going to remember what I did? Of course not. So I'm going to make it as easy as possible for me to jump back into my code and figure it out, which is why, Kara, if you go back to the screen, which is why I comment everything. Comment everything. Because right now, this is obvious. S1, oh yeah, that's stepper 1. S2, that's stepper 2.
Right.
But again, put it away for a year and come back and I'll go, S1, S, what? What did I do? This is stupid. I also did it with a couple of other variables that I'm going to need. Speed. That is, how fast do I want this thing to be moving when I hit the AWSD keys?
Right.
Distance. That is that allows it to count how many steps it's taken, because that's important when I actually tell it to go X number of steps.
Right.
Full rotation. This is important because remember, if you again go back to episode 212, it has to do a little bit of math to figure out how many pulses it should send to make 1 degree of change.
Right, because there's only so many degrees of change that it's capable of. And what was it, like 4,000 something?
Yeah, 4,096. So
Right.
this particular stepper motor, 4,096 steps is a full rotation. And then it figures out all the math so that it doesn't get all clunky on us.
Yeah.
And then this one, this int lookup, remember, this is just an array that we created so that I have an easy way to push the right bits. So rather than hard coding the bits that I need to send to each driver board to make it move,
Right.
this lists them all, and then I just choose the one out of the array that I need.
That's the binary, right?
Yeah. So that's send 01000 or 01100, et cetera, And I'll actually show you, Kara, if you go to the side view, I think, so watch those lights. You can kind of see, like, that's the different values being sent. So this particular value, notice how those 2 middle ones are changing, but the 2 outside ones are the same.
Yeah.
And then I switch it the other direction. Now the first one is the same, but those other 3 are changing.
Yeah.
And then this motor, same thing.
For the other, for the other motor.
So you can actually see, this is actually one of the things I like about this board. This board will actually show you the value that it's receiving.
Yeah, that's cool.
So that's that array that you just saw in the programming. That's those individual entries being sent to the driver board.
Neat.
Okay. All right, let's go back to the code. So void setup. This is we have to do this every time we do a Arduino project. This just tells the Arduino what are some of the basic things I need to know about what's connected to me. And in this particular case, I first have to set the pins for stepper 1. I have to tell the Arduino these pins are being used for output.
Right.
So I just use the command. This is built in pin mode. So pin mode says, hey, Arduino, I want you to set the pin defined by that variable. And remember, that variable was defined up here as number 4. So I want you to set pin number 4 for output. That's all it's going to do. It's going to push out data.
Right. It's not going to receive any.
Right. And then I do the same thing for here. And this is actually a perfect example of why we're doing it this way. Because if I change those pin values, I'd have to come down here and change this to say, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 7, 8, 9, 10.
Right.
This way, if I change the value up here, it automatically changes it down here.
Smart.
Okay. So I have to do that twice because I've got 2 stepper motors. So I'm setting 8 pins total to output.
Right.
Okay. The next part, and this is, again, I do this because I want to be able to see something back. I'm saying open up the serial port, set it for 9600 bits per second, baud, and just listen. Get ready to listen.
Right.
Okay? Because it needs to listen to me because I'm going to be sending it commands.
Right.
All right. So let's go into the loop. Remember, we want the loop, the main loop, to be as small as possible. You don't want to make that super, super big. I kind of violated that. There were a couple of things I could have shortened here, but if you look at this, my main program is actually not all that big. It's got a couple of if statements. It's got this, which is for debugging.
Right.
And then it's got one single variable, int incoming byte. That's the space in memory that I've set aside to receive anything it gets over the USB bus. So what it's doing is it's listening. It's listening for an incoming byte over the serial port. It only does something if there is data coming in. If it's not, the loop just sits there and waits.
Right.
Okay. But if it does, once it receives that, it's going to print it back to me. It's going to say, this is what you sent me.
Yeah.
Right. I received, and then the incoming byte that I got.
Yeah.
Now remember, people forget this. If I press a key, let's say I press G,
Right.
it's not receiving G.
Yeah, it's getting the decimal of it. Right?
Well, it's getting the ASCII, right?
Or the ASCII,
it's getting the ASCII code for G.
Right.
That's so. Just know that, because people freak out. A couple of people said, "I hit A, but it keeps sending me 110." It's like,
well, that's the ASCII
it.
for A.
Yeah, that's the ASCII for A. All right, now this next part is really, really simple. So, assuming that the Arduino has received data, it now needs to do something with it. And what it has 4 condition checks. It will check first if the incoming byte is 97. Remember, it's receiving a number. It's not receiving a character. So it's receiving 97. If it's 97, which is A, that's the ASCII value for A, then do this. It's going to do this for loop from 0 to less than 3. So from 0, 1, 2. And then each time it will call the function CCW, which is counterclockwise.
Right.
If it's not 97, then this entire thing doesn't run. And then it moves down to this. If it's 100, if the value that comes in is 100, which is the key D,
right,
then it's going to do a loop again, 0, 1, 2, and it's going to call clockwise every time. If it receives 119, it's going to call the function up, and if it's 115, it's going to call the function down. So that's all it is. Now the cool thing about this is sanitized data, because any other key press will do nothing.
Right.
It's only listening for those 4 values. So only if it receives 97, 100, 119, and 115 will it do something. If it doesn't get those values, it doesn't care.
Which is exactly what you want.
Which is exactly what we want.
If you hit something on the keyboard, you don't want it moving around yet.
Precisely. And then here we have this. So I've got 4 functions that I called, which means I need to make 4 functions. The clockwise function, every time it calls, it's going to do 8 steps. So for this one is stepper is 7, as long as stepper is greater than or equal to 0, and stepper minus. So the first time it runs, it's going to be 7. The second time it runs, it's going to be 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, stop. So it will run 8 times.
Right.
You see that?
Yes.
Okay. And when it does, every time that runs, it's gonna invoke this function. So it's a function calling another function, which is move the stepper. And when I go down to move stepper, this is what it looks like. So I'm writing 4 bits to the 4 pins of that driver board that controls that particular stepper, and I am sending it a particular cell inside of that array that I created.
Right.
So 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, whatever it might be.
At the top of the program that we looked at.
Precisely. So that's all it's doing. And then I have a similar function for counterclockwise. I have a function for up, and I have a function for down. But if you look, they're all the same. They work exactly the same. And all those do is those invoke either step 1 or step 2. So moving stepper motor 1, moving stepper motor 2.
Awesome.
That's it.
That's pretty cool.
This is actually a super simple program. And again, the nice thing about this is I can take this same programming and I can apply it to bigger motors and move much bigger objects, but everything else stays the same.
Yeah, and then you can build on it when you do the zoom.
Precisely.
You just have to copy and paste a little stuff. And
we like scalability.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Now, I'm going to close up with a couple of improvements that we're going to be making on this project, because they're doozies. So if you are the one who was waiting for us to do a PTZ project, build this because it's cheap and because it will give you sort of a proof of concept of whether or not this is going to work for you. But then we're going to show you how you can control much bigger cameras in a much sexier way. But before we do that, let's go ahead and thank another sponsor, because you know what, folks? Bryan and I, we like putting things together.
We like putting things together, and there's always the off chance that we might break something.
Yeah, taking things apart are just as fun as putting things together.
Yeah.
And upgrading.
Sometimes even more challenging to put them back together.
But when we do that, there really is only one vendor that we trust, and that's iFixit. Now, iFixit is a company that, yes, they make tools. Yes, they sell you parts. But what really gets me is the fact that they have gone through the trouble of doing hundreds, thousands of disassemblies and instruction manuals so that you can learn how to fix everything from doorknobs and eyeglasses to your Xbox or your iPad. iFixit really is a one-stop shop for all true DIY and maker geeks. Now, iFixit is your complete DIY electronics repair solution. From their 19,000 free step-by-step repair guides to their huge inventory of replacement parts and tools with lifetime warranty, iFixit has got your repair needs covered. And today we're talking about this. This is the brand new ProTech Toolkit. It's gorgeous, completely reimagined. It's just as rugged and portable as before, but now they've done things like used a magnetic mat, and they've angled the bits so they're easier to take out and put in. And yes, they've just increased the look and the feel of the kit. It includes the new 64-bit driver kit, which replaces the former 54-bit driver kit. It's got a more durable case engineered without hinges or latches that might break. And again, those magnets are great, and more bits means fewer repair roadblocks. It's also got a redesigned swivel top precision driver and a flex extension for those hard-to-reach tools. They include precision ESD-safe tweezers, including a pair of reverse tweezers so that you can handle those really hard to get to and hard to hold things like the little nuts that I was having trouble securing at the start of the episode. They've also got a suction cup for display assembly removal and metal and plastic spudgers and their own rubber-handed Jimmy pry tool so that you can get into cases without marring the edges. Now, Brian, I know you've done this before. You know, using a flat screwdriver to try to like pop open a case. That always works really well, right?
Oh yeah, totally. And you know, that frustrated feeling you get when you don't have the right tool, and you're like, you know what, I'm just gonna try and do it with this screwdriver. Don't.
Say, I need a spudger here, but you know what, I'm just gonna use this screwdriver as a chisel.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Do it the right way. Do it with iFixit. Now, the best part is that all of iFixit's products are backed by their lifetime warranty. Buy it because it's awesome. Buy it because we use it. Buy it because you get free access to all the free repair resources on ifixit.com. But most of all, buy it because it's just what you need. It's what you want. If you are a maker, if you're a fixer, if you're a DIYer, you owe it to yourself to have the right tools. Grab yourself an all-new ProTech Toolkit and get going on your next fix, hack, or build. Just head over to ifixit.com/twit and use the code KNOWHOW at checkout to save $5 on your purchase of $10 or more. We thank iFixit for their support. Fix it right, fix it with iFixit. And we thank iFixit for their support of Know-How. All right, Brian, we got to take this to the next step. So they're going to have all the parts.
Right.
They're going to have all the code. So they can take this and they can build this right now. But on Know-How, we're never really truly happy with anything.
I don't think there's one project I could put my finger on and say, this is 100% done. There's nothing more we could do to this.
Right. There's always something. And you know what? This is one of these projects that actually has legs, because it's nice to be able to swivel around my GoPro, but both of us prefer to use larger cameras.
Yeah, definitely. And if we wanted to add zoom to this, you can't really do that with the GoPro. But even beyond just using this as a stepper motor system for like a camera, I've now been kind of imagining what if I had like a little robot that I made.
Arm.
Yeah, like a little robot
Space
arm
bot.
And then like a little clamp at the end of it and stuff.
All very, very possible. But we're going to need to up our game. So the first thing I want to change, and Kara, if you go to the side view here, the first thing I want to change is this. So this entire assembly, let me pull it off, is actually just sitting on top of the shaft. That is a horrible, horrible thing to do.
Yeah, it's not displacing the weight very well.
Yeah, and what's going to happen is, I mean, this is actually okay. This is fine. This is not too much weight. But if I added a tiny bit more, or if I use this for years and years and years, that shaft would eventually get bent. It would be out of true.
Yeah.
And that's bad. You don't want that.
And the plastic piece probably on the underneath here would start to wear down and at least break off or something.
Precisely. So what we want to do is I want to improve this so that the shelf and not the motor is bearing the weight. And so I'm thinking what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to build up the shelf a little bit around the motor, and then I'm going to build a flange around this so that the 3D part actually supports the weight.
Right.
So it's like a little rotating bearing.
Yeah.
And all that this does is it provides the rotational energy.
Right. And that'll probably help with smooth it out too.
It very much
add a little bit
smooths
more
it out.
balance to it.
Right, exactly. Because if the motor is not having to maintain it all the time, it will rotate more smoothly. Yeah. And also that scales much better. Because this may work for a GoPro, but if I try to mount a DSLR on that, it would just snap it. It would just snap it in half. Yeah, it is no bueno. No. So I'm going to have to redesign this part, this flange here, this part, and I'm going to have to redesign this part, which is not a problem. The other thing that I want to do is I want to better balance this. It's a little bit okay because this counterbalances that, but I think this entire thing needs to shift over probably about an inch or an inch and a half, so that what I want is I want to be able to put this on its edge there, and it should stand.
Right.
Because that means that no matter how the motor is rotating, it's a balanced load.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right now, when I have this on this,
it leans a little.
It's leaning, which means it's pulling on that shaft,
right.
which again is no bueno.
Yeah.
You don't want that to happen, because and you can see it, because so when I rotate this thing, you can kind of see it be jerky a little bit, and the reason why it's jerky is because
that inertia
it's
from
bouncing,
the weight
right?
is
it's bouncing against itself.
Well, that's why this is almost like a gimbal, that you see on a DJI, or I think you made one before too.
Yeah, this is exactly a gimbal. So gimbals they don't use servos, they use stepper motors.
Right, and that's why you'd want it to be balanced so that it's not throwing itself around like that. Yeah.
Precisely. And the other thing I'm probably going to do is I'm going to build a more dedicated GoPro mount, because I don't like this big thing
rotating back around.
Yeah, it kind of, I think right there. See, it blocks me.
You could probably make like a little 3D printed, instead just like shorten this and just have this be like a little 3D printed mount where you can then put the screw through.
Precisely. The other thing I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to build up the platform a little bit, so I'm going to put all the wiring underneath. I want to neaten it up. But the biggest thing I'm going to do, Brian, is these.
What's that? What you got there?
It's pizza. No, it's not.
Motors
These
and electronic
are real steppers.
What?
These are NEMA 17s, and these will actually support quite a bit of weight.
Oh, you're busting out the fancy
look at
stuff.
that.
Whoa.
Yeah. So check this versus that. Stepper Envy. This is larger than that entire assembly.
Oh, this is like heavy too.
Yeah, so this is this is my spare kit. So I built myself a 3D printer. So these are what I would use in a 3D printer.
Yeah.
But this, combined with the techniques and the software that I designed for this, this will actually hold my Panasonic, my AG HMC 150.
I believe it. This thing feels heavy duty.
It is super heavy, and the nice thing about this is crazy smooth, which is what you want. So this I would actually trust to do that like butter panning shot.
Ooh, yeah.
So because right with that, it kind of you'd get a little bit of the shake. It's not cool. But this one, this is like what we would have inside that Panasonic that you liked so much.
Yeah, I'm also curious, like, on the software side, how much rotation, like if the number changes from, what was it 4,000 to 96, and so like this will be like way more than that.
Which again, great point. Thank you for bringing that up. If you go back to that the code screen, Kara, that's why up here we set full rotation. So full rotation for the 28BY stepper is 4096. Full rotation for this is much higher. I think this is something like 16,000.
Okay.
And so you get way more steps, which again translates into way smoother movement.
Right, finer control.
Right, and the other thing is, here, feel this, touch this.
What? Okay.
It's a little warm.
Oh, it is getting a little hot. Yeah.
And
Is that
that's
just because it's got power going?
Well, no, it's because it's actually maintaining if I turned it off, it would just droop.
Oh, okay.
Right? So it's actually expending a little bit of power just to maintain that thing where it is.
Right, okay.
I'm at the limits of what these motors can handle, which means they get really, really hot.
Yeah.
Using a motor like this means I'm not loading it nearly as much. They won't get nearly as hot. They'll last a lot longer.
Okay. I didn't realize, that they were just always on. Or to hold that position, you had to keep power going to it. That's cool.
Yeah. But so we're going to be going ahead and using a bunch of these in some future projects because I love them so much. But if you're just starting off with stepper motors, don't go with the NEMA 17s off the bat. Because
how expensive are they?
Not much. I think I bought this 5-pack for like $17.
Okay.
They're not that expensive, but you also need to get the driver boards. So when you buy that for $2, that includes the driver.
Oh, so you can't use these little boards with these?
You blow them up.
Oh.
That'd be bad. That'd be really bad. You're also going to need a beefier power supply.
That makes sense. You can't probably power it from the Arduino.
You can't even power. I mean, you can power one of those from the Arduino, but you see the lights on the Arduino, really like, why are you doing this to me?
Please don't do that.
Stop it.
Okay.
So those are two changes we're going to make. We're going to better the frame. We're going to beef up the motor. So this thing is going to be huge. It's going to carry large cameras. And then I want to get the connectivity to the point where there's just a single connection. Rather than having a lot of wiring and then a USB cable, I want it either Bluetooth wireless or I want to put a networking shield on the Arduino so I can access it over the network.
Yeah.
Which would be great because then I can also send video feed back and essentially make myself a network-connected PTZ.
You know what I want now? You remember when we were at, it was not Maker Faire this year, but the year before, the guys who made the shield where you move your phone and it moves the arm? So what if you had like the video coming to your phone and then you could just pan your phone to move the stepper motor?
That would be cool. And actually, very simple.
Mm.
Actually, I know how to do that. Mm. I was just playing with that at Google I/O.
The movement thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ideas.
Actually, you know what we need to make that work?
What?
Project Tango phone.
Oh, yeah. If Lenovo happened to send us one.
Or if Leo would buy us one.
Or that, yeah. Hey, you know there's going to be a couple floating around.
There's going to be a couple, yeah. Well, folks, we know that this was a lot of information to cover, and we want to make sure that you can get it all. So the programming for this is already up. It's already available. That link will go up as soon as our show notes go up, along with the part link. So if you want to buy any of this stuff, and remember, if you're going to buy, it's so inexpensive, buy a lot. We're going to be using these parts over and over again.
Yeah.
Where do they find all that information, Brian?
Oh, the same place that they can download and subscribe, and that's at twit.tv/KH. And yeah, like Padre pointed out, that's where all the show notes will be for all the links of where you need to buy stuff. And you know, you get to see all the cool screenshots that I do for each episode. I put a lot of work into that.
He works really hard on that, folks. Many people don't realize that after the episode, Brian's job isn't done. He has to edit and then upload and do all the show description stuff. So
if there's a mistake, it's my fault.
It's his fault. Yeah.
But that's not the only place.
No, you could also find us on Google+. In fact, we love when people join our Google+ community. We call them the Ketas, the know-it-alls. It's a place where you can go to find ideas for new projects, to post pictures and videos of your current projects, or maybe if you're an expert, to help people with the problems that they might be having. DIY problems, maker problems. Just go to the Google+ community and look for know-how. Now, it is a invitation, so once you click that you want to join, we have to approve you. We just did that because we were getting so much spam, but we'll let you write in, and then you can enjoy all the goodness that are our Ketas.
Right. You can put this project together and then show Padre how to really do wire management.
Yeah. And I know one of the things that we've talked about before is we love it when you take our projects and you do them better. And if you think that this will work better with servo motors, show us a project with servo motors. We'll put it here on the show. Give us a video and we'll include it as a parting shot for a future episode of Know-How.
Exactly. But maybe you want to see what we're doing behind the scenes, or you just want to contact us directly. Best way to do that is follow us on Twitter. I'm at cranky_hippo.
And I am at Padre SJ. And we actually have a brand new member of the Twit crew.
Alex Gumpel.
Alex
Gumpel. TD.
Yes.
Today.
Alex, thank you very much for your patience and for your time. And your looks kind of scary.
I can actually feel the death glare right now.
Well, folks, that's Kara Cole. She'll be our new TD. She's also known for every show she TDs ends up getting canceled. So,
is that what's happening?
I think we're getting canceled.
She's like the death notice. Yeah.
It's the kiss of death.
And
canceled.
Is over.
Anyways, until next time, I'm Father Robert Ballecer.
And I'm Bryan Burnett.
And now that you know how,
go build it.
And step.
Step it. Stepper motor it.
There's no ending? That's it?
That's it.
Okay.
That's all we do. Yeah, right? Like, that's exciting.
Awkward.
Awkward.